Good afternoon, this is the night before news for your engineering exam. So this is your unit 3. It is 80 marks for this exam. The last mock you did was 60, so this is slightly different. It's the same sorts of questions, but it's a slightly different amount of marks. This will be worth 40% of your final grade input with your coursework. So it is quite a large chunk to make sure that you are focusing on and getting right. The exam is going to be very similar to the November mock you did. The questions are all split into sections. There'll be a lot of sections per question, but they should be grouped together into topics. There will be a question on materials and properties. This can be to do with things like why you might choose a certain material for a certain function, what some of the properties of certain materials are, but also how we might test those properties, so the different types of testing there is, and also how we would test for different things. For example, how I might test for malleability, for high tensile strength, for durability, and so on. There will be a drawing based question, so this usually goes in with some of the other sections around equipment and tools and safety processes, but there will be a question around drawing. It will be usually a question such as describe how to do this process, or how to complete this method, or how to create this item. And it says you might wish to use sketches, or it might ask you specifically to use sketches to describe how you would create a piece. It can be super specific or it can be quite general. If you remember in your November mock, the question asked you on how to create an external thread and asked you to use sketches and diagrams to help with that. You will have a very similar question in this paper and any other papers you do for engineering. There will always be that question around drawing a process. There will also be a question on modern developments. So this will be around both health and safety, but also thinking about the manufacture of some different products and what developments there have been that might help with that. This could be things around health and safety features. This could also be things around new modern features. There will also be questions on production as well. So in terms of production, this could be orthographic drawings of different things. It could be isometric drawings of different products. You might get a question about cost or area and volume. There will definitely be a calculation question, whether that is around area volume, whether that is around working out costings of material or waste material, so on. Can be different each time, but there will always be that calculation question. In terms of general advice, it is the same as quite a lot of your other exams. Just make sure you are reading the question very carefully and identifying what it actually wants you to do. So double check your command words. With this, I would also suggest that you are looking at how many marks a question is worth as well. Lots of the questions in the November mock were either explain or describe questions. However, they were usually worth 2 marks. That means that they are expecting more than just a single word answer. Generally, if it's an explain question, you need to talk about the what it is, but also the why or the how. You need to add more than just that identification. If it's a describe, that is identifying things. It's just a say what you see essentially. That could be size, shape, temperature, that could be different properties, that could be to do with diagrams or data, or anything you can see about that product. It explains when we're going into the why of certain things. Why might this product have this function, or why it might use this material? You need to be checking how many marks these are worth as you go. You may also have evaluate or compare questions, or even longer answer describe questions. Again, the most important thing is just to check how many marks each question is worth so that you are writing enough to hit each mark. For example, if a question is worth 6 marks and you only write 2 points, that is obviously not going to hit all 6 of those. The most marks on this paper do come from our longer answer questions, so these are 6 to 8 marks. Not all of these questions are written though, so you will have at least one drawing question. Generally speaking, there will usually be 2 or more drawing questions that might be to draw a process like we discussed earlier. So for example, our last mock was how to create an internal thread using diagrams and sketches to illustrate your point. You will also usually have a question asking you to draw an orthographic projection or a third angle drawing of certain product that it has given you in the question. This was again something that you did have in your November mock. Generally speaking, we're really good with this. Just make sure you are double checking where there are any holes, where there are any shading that you might need to add, and that you are adding the correct type of shading, the correct type of lines to your drawings as you are going. Please make sure you are being neat and tidy, and where possible using a pencil for any drawing questions. As we discussed, there will also be a calculate question, so this could be volume, this could be area, this could be costing. These will usually be around 6 marks, so the one in the November mock was a area based question, and that was a 6 marker. Make sure you are checking the number of marks, make sure you are writing all your working out. Most importantly, please do make sure you bring a calculator with you to the exam, just so that you have that there, because even if you don't hit every single mark, especially for those calculation questions, you will still get some marks if you are putting down your working out and you are on the correct idea. It's the same for those drawing questions. Even if you don't think you can get all of the marks, make sure you are having a go, because you can still hit some of them. Generally, in terms of tips, make sure you answer every question. That's the same for most of your exams. Try and be logical about what the question is asking you. A lot of the questions, especially when it comes to health and safety or modern developments, are very logical and very much common sense. Just make sure you are writing down what you are thinking. Don't try and overthink some of the questions, and also make sure that you are answering every question, even if it is a little bit of a guess. Make sure you bring a calculator for any of those calculation questions, and be neat and clear with any drawings. I would heavily suggest you are using pencil for those drawings, and make sure that they are neat, tidy, you are using a ruler. For orthographic drawings, for example, you will get a mark for using a ruler and it being clear, neat and tidy. So that is a really easy way to get some of those extra marks up. When it comes to calculation questions, make sure you are checking any units that they give you and any conversions that need to take place. In engineering, we work in millimetres. If a question is giving you any other unit, you will need to convert that. We did have a practice with this today. Make sure that you are checking the question carefully and really checking those units and conversions. Check the order of your calculations are correct, and make sure that you have done everything you need to get the correct answer. And make sure you are checking what kind of answer the question wants. So if it is asked for a certain number of decimal places or significant figures, make sure your final answer is hitting that, because if they mention that in the question, that will be its own mark as well. Finally, make sure you are making the most of revision. There are revision booklets. There is also a revision guide on Arbor that was put on there before the February half term. There is everything you need to know in there. Just make sure you are using it wisely. Don't try and learn everything at once. They have the key knowledge for everything you need, but go through Arbor, go through our practice questions from class, pick out your weakest areas, and that's what you should focus on. Don't try and do everything at once. If you are not sure what you would want to revise or think you need to revise, come and see me. I have also given this out in revision lists. Just make sure you are trying to revise effectively. Good luck.